Dear students, today we are going to learn about the constructive and destructive waves, how these waves are responsible to create something on the sea coast, and how these waves are responsible to destroy something at the sea coast. You all know the difference between constructive and destructive waves. There are two elements which are considered very important while describing whether a wave is constructive or destructive. The first element is swash and second element is called backwash. Swash is a process where the waves are approaching towards the coast. When waves approach towards the coast or the sea water approaches towards the coast, that is called swash. And when the same water goes back into the sea, it is called backwash. So swash and backwash decide that whether the wave is going to be destructive or constructive. Here you can see there are two diagrams. This diagram is about the constructive waves, whereas this second diagram is about the destructive waves. If you can observe these two diagrams, there are a lot of differences. First of all, see what is there in constructive waves. The constructive waves, you can see crest, trough, crest, right? So the waves are moving towards the coast. Now the constructive waves are very slow. The movement of water is very calm. The sea is at calm and the waves are approaching towards the coast gently. That is why they are responsible to create sea beach. Whereas the destructive waves are very much different. But first let us talk about only the constructive waves. If you see the constructive waves, they are gently approaching towards the coast. So they are getting a lot of sediments. Those sediments from the sea, the sediments are also floating along with or moving along with the waves. So those sediments which are coming with the waves are deposited on the coastal beach. So these sediments which are deposited on the coastal beach will remain there on the coast and it will become the part of the sea beach. So this way the coastal beaches are created by the constructive waves. Now the major element of the constructive wave, if you see the crest and trough, because the waves are gently moving on the water, so they are not responsible to destruct anything on the coast, but rather they will construct something. That is the major part of the construction is the sea beach. This way the waves are responsible to create beaches or they are responsible to deposit a lot of sediments on the coast, because there the swash is stronger. The swash is stronger than the backwash. Second important thing which is in the constructive waves is, if you look at the wave length and wave height. The constructive waves, wavelength, what is the wavelength? Wavelength is the distance between two successive and adjacent crests. So if you see two adjacent crests here, two adjacent crests, crest 1 and crest 2, the distance is large. So wavelength is high. The distance between two constructive waves is more. So if the wavelength is more, it means that the wave height is less. Now see the distance, the difference between wavelength and wave height. If the wavelength is more, if the waves are moving gently or calmly, then the wavelength is going to be high. And if the wavelength is high, the wave height will reduce. So you can see the wave height, if we have to measure here the wave height, you can see here the wave height is very less. Right? The wave height is very less. So two crests are moving away apart. There is a lot of distance. Wavelength is more, wave height is less. So the wave will travel very smoothly towards the coast and it will deposit a lot of sediments on the coast. So it will create the coastal landforms on the sea coast. What is there in the destructive waves? Now see the difference between constructive and destructive waves. Destructive waves are those waves whose backwash is stronger than swash. So whatever is being deposited on the coast, that material is being taken by the waves into the sea. So backwash is getting something from the coast and taking it into the sea. So that way backwash becomes very strong. Now here if you see the crest and trough, the wavelength is very less because the crests are located very close to each other. You can see the crests are located very close to each other, so the wavelength is less and height is more. It means that the waves are traveling with some very high speed. The waves are traveling with very high speed, so they are able to cover a larger area. Because of the speed, the water can reach up to the coastal region. Whatever has been deposited on the coast, that entire amount can be taken back by the waves and will be deposited inside the sea. So this way the wavelength is less, wave height is more in the destructive, the speed is also more, the water moving, the wave speed is also very high, or wave frequency is very high, which results into the erosion. Okay, and here wave frequency in constructive waves, wave frequency is less, wave height is also less, wavelength is more, so the waves are able to deposit a lot of sediments on the sea. So in constructive waves the deposition took place, whereas in destructive waves the erosion took place. This way constructive and destructive waves are working. Now it depends on the region, or in season to season also it changes, because if the waves if the area has storms, then during the stormy days the sea waves will have more destructive waves, or if the area or the coastal region doesn't have a storm, or the environment is quite smooth or peaceful, then the area will have more constructive waves. So the destructive waves are also known as storm waves, or they are also known as plunging waves, because they plunge onto the coast and then remove everything from the coastal region. Whereas the constructive waves are known as spilling waves, because the waves are very smooth, so it will deposit a lot of sediment, the water will start spill over the coast, and that way a lot of sediments has been deposited. So these are the main differences between constructive and destructive waves. Thank you.